Hey guys, it's Abby here from 4onemore.com, and this afternoon, maybe you're grabbing a little bit of lunch in between homeschooling the kids. That's what we're doing over in my house. So I told the kids, be quiet and eat lunch, and I'm going to jump on here and give you guys a little inside look into the Little Fishes Inductive Bible Studies. These are for grades K through 4. So this is a fairly new product. We just came out with the first one, which is the book of James. We had that ready in September, and then in about November, December, we did Jonah and Nahum. So I wanted to just kind of give you the rationale behind them and then give you some inside peeks, because this is different than anything that I have found personally to use with my kids. So if you are homeschooling kids in a Christian home, likely your main, where you start is usually, you start with the Bible stories, right? And you have to have that foundation. So the kids need to learn the Bible stories, the basic chronology, how it all fits together, who is who, the big story of the Bible. And if you're going to church, that's probably what your church Sunday school or the kids' time is teaching them as well. Now, you want that to be a solid foundation. And I love Bible curriculum that gives that foundation of chronology. I love just using children's Bible storybooks when the kids are young, making sure they're familiar with all those stories. But at some point, when they feel like, well, all I'm getting is the same story over and over, or we always start and we do creation and then we go to Noah and then we hit Abraham for a little bit, when they're just getting the same thing over and over, that might be a hint to you that they're ready to learn have some new tools in their Bible study tool belt. And I know this might seem kind of crazy with little kids, right? You can judge your own kids. Maybe they're not ready to dive into an inductive study. Maybe they just need a few more years of just those basic Bible stories. But I know my kids growing up in a pastor's home and in church and Sunday school and then midweek service before coronavirus, all this stuff, they were getting all the stories. They were getting a little bit tired of being told the same Bible stories over and over, and they needed something else to deep dive into scripture. So that's what the inductive Bible study brings to your kids. So there's nothing wrong with the children's Bible story books and your basic curriculums that tell the stories. I'm not bashing them at all. We use them in our home. But at some point, your kids are ready to get some new tools. And so this is a life skill, right? This is a life skill, especially when they're teenagers. They're really ready to move on and dive into the epistles or dive into those things. But today we're talking mainly about the younger crew, K through 4. And so let me tell you just shortly and briefly what the inductive method is about and then how the Little Fishes studies actually work. So the inductive method deep dives into text of scripture. Instead of having something paraphrased for your kids and, interpreted, and you read a Bible story book that tells them what they should think about it, your kids are actually interacting with one verse, 2 verses, maybe 3 verses of scripture that make a complete thought. And the first step in an inductive method is observation. What does the text say? Little kids can do this really well, honestly. So for example, I'll give you an example as I talk. So in our Jonah study, this is the first day they see the text of scripture. And for the observation step, they need to circle the word Jonah. They need to put a green box around the place names, because this first little set of verses here talks about Nineveh and Tarshish and Joppa. And they need to draw a black circle around the word evil and then underline in blue the words from the presence of the Lord. And once your kids do all that, it's amazing how stuff jumps off the page and they can start to see what's being said here in the text. So the first step is, what does the text say? And it's simply marking. And you can see how even little kids, like first graders, kindergartners, can do that, right? You can help them find, where's Jonah, mentioned here. This is for kids who are reading. So if your kindergartner's not reading, that's going to be a little hard. But once they're reading, they can do this. And that's the first step, observation. Then the second step in an inductive method is learning to ask the question, what does the text mean? This is the interpretation step. A lot of times with our little kids and our big kids, we read the story and we jump to application and we say, okay, What does this mean for you today, little Billy or whatever? Does this mean you should be kind to your brothers? Like when we jump to application, we don't actually stop and try to say, well, what does this mean? Like, is there something here? Is there a whole scripture view? Does this connect with something we read in our Bible story book the other night? Like, what does this actually mean? So in the interpretation step in the Little Fishes books, I do walk them through some questions that help them analyze the text. So we talk about the place names and why is that important? Where's Nineveh? Where's Joppa? Where's Tarshish? Like that must be important to understand the text or it wouldn't be there, right? Realizing that Jonah went in the opposite direction. We could just skim over that and it doesn't actually sink in of what's being talked about. Why was God telling Jonah to go preach in Nineveh? What word in verse 2 describes the people? We're looking in the text. We're not just, basing it off of the interpretation of a children's Bible storybook. We're really trying to teach the kids to go back to the text and figure out what's being said. This is very much, inductive Bible study very much says, don't come to the text with your own preconceived notions. Like, let the text tell you what it's saying. And then a great part of inductive Bible study is simply narration. If you're a homeschooler, you probably already use narration. A lot of you probably do, like summarizing. Can you summarize this? After the kids have figured out what the text means, then you ask them to summarize. If your kids are really little, you could do a lot of this orally. For sure, they don't need to write it all out if writing's an issue. And then we do get to the application step, which is number 3. How should this change me? And so those are the main steps. Now in the Little Fishes, we add in copywork of some main verses. And there's always a drawing page at the end. So that's one complete week of work for the book of Jonah. And each Little Fishes study takes about 9 weeks at a 4-day-a-week pace. And you're in the same text of scripture for a whole week. So you really have time to let it sink in and you talk about it and your kids really analyze it. My 7-year-old does these and she loves it. She talks about, in the book of James, she remembered that she had to circle the words hearer and doer a whole lot. And that verse really stuck out to her because she visually had circled and colored in those words. And she, had thought about what does this mean and what's going on in this text. So you'd be amazed. I think sometimes we tend to dumb down the content area of Bible. I know I've done this in the past. I've been guilty of this. And sometimes we go, well, we need to push our kids. They need to be reading and doing math and we need to push them. And then when we get to Bible, we dumb it down. But I think kids can actually handle this. They can actually handle jumping into the actual text of scripture. But the Little Fishes puts it in a gentle way. It's not the whole book. They're not going to study through the whole book of James. They're going to study key passages. The Bible has so much by way of illustration and repetition and, word pictures that kids really can understand. And that's kind of the goal of this. It's to give our kids a little taste and a little experience with the inductive method so that as they get older, when they're teenagers, you can move on to whole book studies, and it's going to give them that life skill that, let's face it, a lot of adults in churches don't know how to read their Bible. There was a poll by Lifeway in 2017 that said like over 50% of churchgoers only read the Bible, only hear the Bible when it's read to them at church. They don't pick it up during the week. And I think part of it is because they don't know how to read the Bible and understand it. So I think we need to be proactive, give our kids those tools. And if you're a parent who's like, I love this idea, but I'm really intimidated because I don't pick up my Bible because I don't know how to read it, then I think you can learn right alongside of your kids. There's no shame in that. And as homeschooling parents, we know that part of the beauty of homeschooling is learning new skills with our kids. It shows them you're a lifelong learner, and it shows them mom isn't she doesn't know how to do this, and you can learn right alongside of your kids. So that's a little bit of how this works, how it's set up. At this point, I'm sorry to say I only have digital downloads available for these studies, but I am looking into getting physical copies printed, and I know some of you would rather have physical copies. The benefit of digital is you purchase once, obviously you could print it for multiple kids in your home, so that's like a good benefit and good value. I know having a physical copy, then you don't have to think about it. So let me know if you guys would rather see these kind of things in a physical format that gets mailed to you. I am going to look into that pretty soon here, and I'll let you know when that's live. So at this point, we only have the book of James and Jonah. Also leave a comment if these things look interesting to you, what other books you'd be interested in seeing in inductive Bible study form, even for your youngest learners. So this is for grades K through 4. So I do have a freebie for you. I put the link already in the description for this video. I'll make sure it's there, but you can download the first week of this Jonah study. You can print it out and you can try it and you can see what you think. So there's no big commitment. So you can get it for free, see what you think, and let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'm really excited about this because I feel like Bible literacy is something that that's really on the decline in our churches and our homes. And so I'm hoping by putting these out into the world that we can really grow our Bible literacy, because it's an important, very important for our kids and their spiritual well-being. So thanks for joining me on this short little live. I'll let you guys go and finish your lunch. Definitely leave questions and I'd be happy to answer them. All right, talk to you later.